Globalization has transformed the modern world economy by creating unprecedented levels of interconnectedness, mobility, and interdependence among nations. It refers to the process through which goods, services, capital, technology, labor, and information move freely across borders, creating a unified global market where national boundaries matter less than ever before. At its core, globalization aims to expand economic opportunity by linking producers and consumers worldwide, but its effects are complex and often uneven. Some nations experience rapid growth, innovation, and development, while others face job losses, inequality, and dependency. Understanding globalization requires examining both the opportunities it creates and the challenges it brings, particularly in a rapidly changing digital and technological landscape. The spread of globalization accelerated in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, driven by advancements in transportation, communication, and international trade agreements. Companies gained the ability to operate across continents, accessing cheaper labor, raw materials, and new consumer markets. Consumers benefited from access to foreign goods, competitive pricing, and technological advancements. Multinational corporations emerged as powerful economic actors, shaping global supply chains and influencing policy decisions in many developing countries. However, while globalization can stimulate economic expansion, it can also intensify vulnerabilities, especially for countries without strong regulatory systems, diversified industries, or competitive labor markets. One major economic effect of globalization is the rise of global trade, which has grown exponentially as countries specialize in producing goods where they hold a comparative advantage. For example, some countries focus on manufacturing electronics, textiles, or automobiles, while others specialize in exporting raw materials, energy, or agricultural products. This specialization increases efficiency, reduces production costs, and expands consumer choice. But it also increases reliance on foreign partners. When global supply chains are disrupted due to political tensions, natural disasters, or health crises, the economic impact spreads quickly across borders, demonstrating that interdependence can be both a strength and a weakness. Another key effect is the shift in labor markets. Globalization has created millions of jobs in developing countries as factories move to regions with lower labor costs. This contributed to rising incomes, urbanization, and the growth of middle classes in nations across Asia, Latin America, and parts of Africa. Yet the same process has led to job losses in developed countries, where industries relocated to remain competitive. Workers in high-wage economies face pressure as traditional manufacturing jobs disappear, replaced by service sector or technology-focused roles requiring new skills. This structural shift often widens inequality between skilled and unskilled workers, fueling political and social tensions that challenge the long-term stability of global economic integration. Foreign direct investment, FDI, is another central driver of globalization, as companies establish operations abroad, invest in infrastructure, and transfer technology. FDI benefits host countries by creating employment, increasing productivity, and improving access to global markets. It also encourages governments to adopt business-friendly policies to attract investment. However, excessive dependence on foreign investors can undermine domestic industries, limit national decision-making power, and expose countries to sudden capital outflows if investors lose confidence. A balanced approach to FDI is crucial to ensure sustainable growth without sacrificing economic sovereignty. Technology plays a transformative role in globalization, enabling instant communication, digital transactions, and global collaboration. The rise of the internet, e-commerce, and automation has revolutionized how businesses operate, allowing even small firms to reach international customers. Digital platforms facilitate remote work, online education, virtual marketplaces, and cross-border financial services. While these advancements create efficiency and opportunity, they also raise concerns about data security, job displacement, and the growing dominance of tech giants. The digital divide between nations with advanced technological infrastructure and those without becomes a major barrier to equitable economic development. Globalization also influences economic policies, as countries adopt reforms to remain competitive in the global marketplace. Governments may lower trade barriers, reduce tariffs, deregulate industries, or privatize state-owned enterprises to attract investment and boost exports. These measures often increase economic growth but can also weaken social protections and widen inequality if not managed carefully. Free trade agreements, regional partnerships, and international financial institutions play a significant role in shaping global economic rules, which sometimes favor wealthier nations and multinational corporations over smaller economies. Cultural exchange is another economic dimension of globalization, as media, entertainment, and lifestyle trends spread worldwide, creating new markets and industries. Tourism, international education, sports, and digital content contribute billions to the global economy, while shaping cultural identities and consumer behavior. However, globalization can also lead to cultural homogenization, reducing the diversity of local traditions, languages, and small businesses. Economic power increasingly concentrates in global brands that dominate markets across continents. Environmental impacts are becoming central to discussions on globalization, as industrial expansion, increased transportation, and mass consumption contribute to pollution, deforestation, and climate change. Global supply chains often depend on resource extraction and energy-intensive production, raising concerns about sustainability. International regulations, environmental agreements, and green technologies are emerging as critical tools to balance economic growth with ecological responsibility. Without sustainable practices, developing nations may suffer long-term environmental costs that outweigh short-term gains. Globalization also shapes global inequality. While it lifts millions out of poverty through job creation and economic expansion, the benefits are not evenly distributed. Wealth often flows to urban centers, highly skilled workers, and multinational corporations, leaving rural communities, small businesses, and low-skilled workers behind. The gap between rich and poor countries can widen when developing economies depend heavily on exporting raw materials without building strong domestic industries. To reduce inequality, countries must invest in education, healthcare, infrastructure, technology, and social protection systems that empower citizens to compete effectively in the global market. Migration is another major economic effect of globalization, as workers seek opportunities abroad, sending remittances that support families and contribute significantly to national income. While migration can alleviate labor shortages and stimulate growth in receiving countries, it may also cause brain drain in developing nations when skilled professionals leave in large numbers. Balancing migration policies is essential to ensure mutual benefit and fairness. One of the most crucial lessons of globalization is that resilience matters. Nations with diversified economies, strong institutions, transparent governance, and investment in human capital are better positioned to benefit from global integration and withstand economic shocks. Globalization is not inherently good or bad. Rather, its impact depends on how countries adapt, manage risks, and take advantage of opportunities. Strategic planning, innovation, and cooperation are essential to navigate the complex challenges of the global economy. Globalization will continue to evolve as technology advances, geopolitics shift, and new economic powers emerge. Artificial intelligence, renewable energy, automation, and digital currencies are reshaping how nations interact and compete. The future of globalization may look different from today, but its influence will remain central to global prosperity and stability. Countries that embrace innovation, invest in their people, and strengthen global partnerships will thrive, while those that resist change or overlook inequality may fall behind. Ultimately, globalization connects humanity through shared economic interests, challenges, and aspirations. Its effects remind us that in a world where borders are increasingly symbolic, our collective choices determine whether globalization becomes a force for inclusive growth or deepening division. A balanced, equitable approach supported by cooperation, transparency, and long-term vision can ensure that globalization contributes to prosperity, stability, and human progress for generations to come.